Welcome into the Bonesville Pregame Podcast. Al Myatt joined by Kevin Monroe. And Kevin, of course, tremendous defensive back in his playing days at East Carolina. Kevin, it's been a very eventful week for East Carolina football. We haven't had a formal announcement as we tape today, but Blake Harrell's going to be the next football coach. It comes on the heels of a tremendous comeback win at North Texas last Saturday, and then the Pirates getting ready to play Navy on national television Friday, noon kickoff, Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium.
Yeah, Al, it's been a crazy week, and like you, I saw the announcements on social media and on the internet and everywhere about Blake Harrell, getting the interim tag removed. I saw it from ESPN, I saw it from Stephen Igo, and then I actually saw a video on Instagram where John Gilbert himself, mentioned that Blake Harrell was the next head coach as he was talking to the player. So I think we're pending board approval, but I can't see how the board would stop this train that seems to be moving in the right direction. A lot of people will say, well, if Mike Houston had been coaching the last 4 games, they would have won at least 3 of them, or something to that effect, because maybe the schedule towards the end of the year wasn't as good. But I don't think it's necessarily about the wins and losses. It's about the way the team has been playing. It's about, the looseness of the team, the energy they're playing with. They reflect their head coach now. I don't think you saw that. Mike Houston, great guy, great coach, but you didn't. The team almost played uptight. They almost played not to lose. It was just a different feel for the team we saw through the first 5 or 6 games versus the team we saw the last 4. And so I attribute that to the changes that Coach Harrell has made at practice, just attitude. So I think, the Pirates are definitely headed in the right direction. This last game was one of those ones where you saw early season woes creep up again. There were some turnovers early, bad defense, letting receivers get behind them in the secondary, missed tackles. All of a sudden, you're down 21-0, and luckily you get the touchdown before the end of the half, and it's 21-7. But I really felt like this was the tipping point for Blake Harrell. Had he lost this game in blowout fashion, there's no way he gets offered the job. If he loses it in a close game, there's still a lot of question. But the fact that they stormed back, only gave up 7 points in the second half, scored 40 points. I think at one point they were 23 unanswered. Just really showed the difference in adjustments made at halftime versus the previous regime. It showed the ability to fight in this team that we hadn't seen all season long, specifically because, early in the season they were up 16 and I think 17 versus App State and Liberty, and still found ways to lose. This was the complete opposite. They're fighting from behind, and not only do they come back, but they come back with a vengeance and blow past their opponent. So I think that was all John Gilbert needed to see to make this decision. And for now, it seems to be the right one. Now, do they lock him up for a long-term deal, or do they make him go out and earn it over the next couple seasons? And, he's on a year-to-year basis or a 2-year deal. I don't know. But I think at least he's earned the opportunity to be named head coach.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I really like the personality. It's not about Blake Harrell. It's about East Carolina football. And he's got a whole lot of what you like about a head coach, I think, for the Pirates. That win at North Texas, Chase Sewell and Winston Wright Jr., not available, and yet still over 500 yards of total offense. Says a lot for John David Baker. I think we have not really given the offensive line the credit that they deserve, because East Carolina's been able to run the ball, and they've been able to protect to allow the passing game to flourish. And that a lot of credit to Matt Maddox, the offensive line coach, and, of course, John David Baker, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's that next man up mentality. You have Winston Wright and Chase Sewell out, and here comes Yannick Smith. And Yannick Smith just plays out of his mind. He's getting open. He's making big catches. And he's had 2 straight games where he's played really, really well. And so last time I spoke with John David Baker, he talked about Yannick Smith and his ability to catch the football. So they like him a lot. And so that was great to see him step in and make some plays. Guys like Riles and Kelly was back at tight end. We hadn't seen him in a handful of games for his injury. He was back out there. And so, yeah, it was just guys stepping up and making plays. And as you mentioned, the run game was so huge. I can remember, I guess, the game before this, I think it was a Tulsa game, where late in the game, the Pirates were kind of struggling to hold the lead. It was back and forth. And I just remember saying to myself, keep it simple, run the football. And they started giving the ball to Roger Harris, and he just he took over the fourth quarter of that game, and they couldn't stop him. And so coming into this game, very similar. Landon Montgomery played well. Roger Harris played well. You mentioned the offensive line. It's one of these things where you can hide a porous offensive line or a struggling offensive line in a passing game when you're getting the ball out quickly, because the offensive line has to block for a second, two, ball's gone. What you can't do is hide them when you're trying to run the football. And so if you have a bad offensive line and you're trying to run the football, it's just not going to work. You can see tons of teams around the country that can't run the football. But this offensive line, and you mentioned Coach Maddox, they have taken it on their shoulders to go out and just get after D-lines, maybe even D-lines where they're outmatched. Their scheme has been better. The effort has been better, and they've just been giving these running backs who, there's three really good running backs back there that are getting carries, in Gunn and Harris and Montgomery, and they are all running hard and running well. And so, been very impressed with the running game, and it's made a difference in a young quarterback, newly starting quarterback's tenure, because they've been able to run the football. It opens up things for the passing game.
Well, that's right. I think it's in my perception, it's a more athletic, better conditioned group up front for East Carolina. And you certainly look at things like that game at North Texas and the comeback, and East Carolina got the momentum and kept it and won that game on the road senior day for North Texas. And hate those guys have to go out on a loss, but glad East Carolina takes momentum into their senior day. Kevin, what do you remember about your senior day at East Carolina?
Wow. I mean, outside of the Miami game, my senior year that's been so talked about, I would say that senior game against NC State, last game in Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium, was the most memorable game of my career. Facing a quarterback in Jamie Barnett, who was, really, really good player. They had some really, really good receivers back then, and just having to go up against them at home. It was the largest crowd in East Carolina history at the time. They brought in end zone seats for both end zones, and we had over 50,000 fans. And also, it made Coach Logan the winningest coach in East Carolina history that game. So just a fun game. I think we ended up winning maybe 23-6 or something like that. They didn't even score a touchdown. So we felt good about the way the defense played. David Garrard and Jamie Wilson and the offense went out and did their job. It was a fun time, and to have my parents be able to come down on the field and give my mom a rose and run out for the last time, amongst the cheering crowd at Dowdy-Ficklen was something I'll never forget. I know these seniors will be looking forward to Friday and having their last time out in Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. It won't be their last game; they'll play a bowl game, but it's something to be said about the last time in Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. It's a special moment.
We talked about the running game. There's been a big change in football. It used to be if an offensive lineman got behind a runner, pushed him forward, that was aiding the runner, and that would be penalized. But I think a very pivotal point in that North Texas game, Rajay Harris emerges from a pile, then later gives credit to his offensive lineman for pulling him through the pile. And that's a 39-yard touchdown. East Carolina's within 21-14. And nobody in Pirate Nation thinks that's going to be the end of the comeback. They've got the momentum, and they kept going and got the win 40-28. But big change in college football. You see it oftentimes in pro football. They've got formations to get behind a back going forward in a short yardage situation.
Yeah, we got the way you call it, the tush push in Philadelphia that they've made so famous, and behind Jason Kelsey and Jalen Hurts, and it's interesting. I'll say this: it's legal. It's legal now to push the running back. I don't believe it's legal to pull the running back. So I think the Pirates may have gotten away with one there. But love the effort. Love to see the offensive lineman downfield trying to get Rajay free. He did the rest on his own. But yeah, huge play. He gets stopped on that play. Who knows if the comeback even happens? But his will to keep his feet moving, to keep the pile moving, because if the pile's not moving, the referees will blow it dead. That's their job, to blow it dead, to keep people from injury and keep people from stripping the ball out late when runners stop. But the fact that he was moving his legs and the pile was moving, it gave him an opportunity to get free. I love it. I love having that addition in sports, to where it gives the offensive lineman some more things to do during a play, instead of just blocking for a second or two and then watching. Now they get to get downfield and keep trying to help their running back out any way they can, get people off the pile. So I think it's pretty cool. I certainly have seen times where I thought, wow, he had stopped running and the offensive line's been pushing him for 5 seconds, but it worked in the Pirates' favor. It was a pretty cool play.
Kevin, we talked a little bit about it briefly before we started taping, about kind of the disparity in the period for each team prior to this game. And Navy coming off a bye week, they've not played since November 16th, when Tulane went to Annapolis and put up a 35-0 win. So they've had that time to rest to a degree, I'm sure, and prepare for East Carolina. East Carolina's got a short week. Played last Saturday and going out on Friday. So they've had to compact things to a degree. That doesn't seem to me like it should be a situation that the American Athletic Conference should allow in terms of equitable competitive situations.
Yeah, I mean, you'll run into times where a team will have a bye week and the other team does not. But as long as that other team has a full week to prepare, they still have the same amount of time as they would normally. You can't make it where everybody's bye week matches up. So I get that. But you're right. To have a short week versus a bye week, that seems unfair. That seems unreasonable, to expect one team to be ready for the other team after the other team has, close to 14 days to prepare. But yeah, you know what? That's probably not something that Coach Harrell has harped on this week. He's like, it's time to get ready to go play. We've been at this now for 11 plus weeks. We know what we need to do to win this game. And so you probably won't hear that out of the team. But I think, to your point, it shouldn't be something that the team has to comment on. It should have been something that had been handled by the conference when they were scheduling. And we'll just have to hope that this was an oversight and that they didn't realize this was happening. Of course, you throw Thanksgiving in there, and people are playing on Friday after Thanksgiving. It's kind of become a thing now, and so who knows? Doesn't seem fair, but I don't think it'll hold the Pirates back. I will say that it does give Navy a chance to recharge and get back to fundamentals and get back to what was allowing them to be so successful early in the season. Because to get beat the way they have over the last few weeks to Notre Dame and Tulane, that's not Navy football. It's not the Navy football in 2024. So I expect to see a much different Navy team coming down to Ficklin on Saturday.
Well, I think one factor in the scheduling situation is the game with Army, which is a national tradition, and that game is even after the American Athletic Conference championship game. And there was conversation at one point during the season that Army and Navy could actually play twice.
Right.
In successive weeks in the league championship, and then their annual battle. So in order to play that game later, they have to have an open date at some point. It's just like I say, I think it's not an equitable competitive situation this week. But like Blake Harrell has said, it is what it is. And I think the first person that I ever heard say that was Steve Logan. It is what it is. And was talking with the publisher of Bonesville, Danny Whitford. We're texting with him this week, and his son Christopher noted that Steve Logan was the last internal hire for head coach at East Carolina. And, of course, Steve Logan went on to win the most games of any coach in ECU history after Dave Hart, expressed the confidence in him to give him the job. So hopefully good things will happen. I know that there's a lot of optimism and confidence in Blake Harrell at this point, and he took the opportunity when he was asked about, the reports of him being named head coach at his news conference on Monday. He kind of declined to comment on that directly, but he did say it was a good opportunity for people to get behind Team Boneyard because that's a very important aspect of success on the college level these days.
It's funny you say that. It's a quick story about the Logan thing. Obviously, the coach prior to Bill Lewis left to go to Georgia Tech, and that's how Logan got the job. My parents were in Atlanta the following year or so, and just doing some shopping. And my dad had his East Carolina hat on, was walking down the street, and a Georgia Tech fan comes walking by, and he sees the East Carolina hat on. And he says, "Pirates!" And my dad's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Bill Lewis." My dad's like, "Yeah." And then the guy says, "You can have him back." I think he was struggling. He was struggling a little bit there at Georgia Tech. So that made me remember about that. But this coaching situation, Blake Harrell, he's excited to have the opportunity. I don't know that he thought he would be a head coach anytime soon. And so for him to be kind of handed the keys to the car, mid-season was something where he just realized he had to get back to the basics to re-energize this program, to do something different. He even made the comment, we needed to make a 180 shift from what we were doing to what we are doing now, or we need to be doing. And so that wasn't a shot at Coach Houston. He was just saying, in order to turn this thing around, we got to change things up. And so that's when he started taking time off to practice, getting guys rested. That's when he started doing more fun things at practice. And just this whole thing's kind of been a bit of a switch up. And so you can see, I don't know how similar he is to Coach Logan in personality. Obviously, Coach Logan was kind of kept to himself. And if you knew him in the media, then you knew his humor and things like that. But he wasn't a really boisterous, outgoing coach the way Coach Harrell is. And so to have a guy where the guys rally around him and love him so much and they're so excited to have him as a coach, I think it will help to keep players there. I think it will help to keep players from transferring, hopping in the portal, because, now most of the players get in the portal because of playing time. So whether it's a new coach, an old coach, it doesn't matter if they're not playing. So you'll still see a handful of guys hop in the portal at the end of the season that haven't played as much as they wanted to. But the guys that are on the field getting playing time, they love coach. They'll be here. NIL is a huge deal. Team Boneyard is going to be a huge deal for the program. So I saw something on social media recently where I think his name's Bryce Underwood, but the Underwood kid who's committed now to Michigan has reportedly been offered a 4-year NIL deal worth $12 million. So that's $3 million a year to play college football. And the person that made the post compared him to Breece Hall, who's a running back for the Jets, whose rookie contract was 4 years for $9 million. And so you've got guys in college now making more than NFL guys. And for one, it's going to make guys stay in college longer. You're going to start seeing guys play 3-4 years in college. They can make that kind of money before they go to the NFL. But two, it just completely changes the game. And I imagine at some point it'll get regulated, whether the government has to step in to regulate it. Who knows what will happen? But as of now, it's the wild, wild west. And if you've got the money to pay players, you can build a program. And so we'll see. It seems like East Carolina fans are happy about Blake Harrell, and people that are happy about Harrell on the team tend to give more money. So I think Team Boneyard will probably see its biggest strides over the next several months.
Well, I think people will be writing checks if East Carolina beats Navy on Friday. And let's talk a little bit about what that's going to take, that Bonesville tradition. Kevin's keys to the game.
Yeah, we don't know yet what the quarterback situation will be. We think it's going to be Blake Horvath. He's been the guy kind of leading the way the entire season. He's just under 60% passing when he does throw the ball, 11 TD passes to 4 interceptions. But the key to him is his ability to run, right? Navy runs this triple option. He's a leading rusher on the team with almost 900 yards rushing, almost 90 yards rushing per game. And so if he doesn't play, it's probably going to be Braxton Woodson, obviously another guy that can run the football and throw it as well. So we'll see how that goes, how that shakes out. They've got a few receivers that can make plays. but it's the running game. They're going to run it early and often. They're averaging over 30 points a game running the football, scoring, coming from running the football. But defensively, they're pretty good as well. And, you look at a Navy team that's got 22 sacks. That's 2 a game. They've got a handful of, I think, 14 interceptions through 11 games, 49 tackles for a loss. So this is a defense that really gets after ball carriers, really does a good job of taking the football away. That's what's made them so successful early in the season. So I'll start by saying, East Carolina, without a doubt, has to be able to stop the run. So up front, the defensive line, got to find a way to get in the backfield. We always talk about alignment and assignment football when you're talking about playing against the option teams. And so, whether you're a linebacker, whether you're a defensive back, whether you're a defensive end, you got a responsibility to stop the run, either the dive man, pitch man, or quarterback. And so we'll have to be able to stop the run and play good football up front. On the offensive side of the ball, we've got to be able to run the football ourselves. We've got to be able to do play action pass, and you have to maintain the football and get first downs, because once you give the ball back to Navy, you may not see it again for 6, 7, 8 minutes because they just keep the football for so long. So defensively, stopping the run, offensively, moving the chains and getting first downs. And then I'll throw in explosion plays. I think the Pirates have done such a good job during this 4-game win streak of explosion plays, whether it's Anthony Smith, whether it's Winston Wright, whether it's Chase Sowell, just big plays downfield, and also from the running backs. Raji's had a couple of really huge runs. So you've got to find a way to get 3 or 4 or 5 explosion plays per half to break this game open and to put Navy in a situation where they have to pass the football as opposed to running it. So stopping the run up front, being able to move the chains when you get the ball offensively and hold on to the ball yourself, and then explosion plays. I think if you can do those 3 things, you can find a way to beat this Navy team.
Very good. And, of course, Pirate Nation can hear Kevin Monroe on the East Carolina Radio Network on Friday as the Pirates host Navy. Kevin will be providing his insights. And, Kevin, I guess we'll have another show before the bowl game. And I don't have a source that I can name as far as the bowl matchup, but I'm thinking maybe it's going to be East Carolina and North Carolina in the Military Bowl.
I'm hearing that as well. I think that would be exciting for Pirate fans. I think, North Carolina has not had the season they'd like to have had, but they're still a very good ball club with good talent. East Carolina is on the rise, peaking at the right time. So I think it'd be a great opponent for the state and a great game.
As always, enjoyed the visit, and we'll look forward to talking with you on the Bonesville Pregame Podcast before the bowl game.
Appreciate it, Al.